Howdy folks, and welcome to this teaching video. My name is Christopher Henry. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I love teaching bluegrass mandolin. Monroe style mandolin is my specialty. Some of y'all might know my folks, Red and Murphy Henry. Their company is called the Murphy Method, and they have been teaching by ear folks how to play bluegrass for, I guess, jeepers, going on at least 35 years, since 1983 or so, 82. They started out advertising in the Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. And my mom's been writing the general store column for jeepers like 20 or 30 years, something like that. And some of y'all may be familiar with Pete Kuykendall, the owner and editor, before his passing. And I had a great relationship with Pete. I was the vice president of his basement for a time and a personal assistant, and learned a lot from him about bluegrass music. So what I'd like to share with you here today is a lesson on the Blueridge Cabin Home. To me, it's a quintessential bluegrass song, kind of the Virginia theme song of bluegrass, super jam session friendly, parking lot picking favorite. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give a little intro on kind of getting the engine running. And this is going to be for beginners in the beginning, intermediate towards the middle, and then at the end we're going to do some advanced stuff, including some Monroe style improvising. Okay, so hopefully the mandolin's all in tune, and let's just talk about scales and patterns just for a second. Okay, so I didn't start playing scales and patterns until I was probably 15 years into playing the mandolin. I just didn't want to do it, didn't sound fun. But when I started practicing scales and patterns religiously for about 6 months over the course of a summer, I was able to develop my technical proficiency in such a way that I could do just about 90% of what I was really trying to do, or maybe even a little more. So let's talk about just scales, just real general, G major scale. Double notes. Triplets, so you're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, all the way. And let's talk about 16th notes, which are 4 notes per fret, or 4 strokes per fret. Okay, so that's G, just straight, major scale. So it's going to take up to A. Double notes. Triplets. So on and so forth. 16th notes. All the way up and all the way down. And then I recommend practicing the scales mostly in G and A because as many of y'all may know, the notes that are in the G scale, fret-wise, are going to be very similar to C, and the notes in A are going to be very similar to the notes in D major. Okay, so let's talk about an arpeggio. What is an arpeggio? Probably a familiar sound. Okay, so just talking about this in terms of the scale intervals, it's the 1, the 3, the 5, and then it starts over with the 1 again. And what does that mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notes in the scale. The G and the G are the 1 and the 8, the 1 and the 1. Same note, just an octave higher. So the arpeggio is the 1, 3, and the 5, and then it starts over on the 1. Okay, so 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1. It's the best if you can just hear it. Da, 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 doo, 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 doo. Okay, so I recommend playing the arpeggio at the end of your scale. So if you go, okay, so it's good to do that in G and A, and it's really good to do it in G sharp too. All your scales. It's the hardest one because you get your little finger involved now. Whoop. Double notes. So on and so forth, and your arpeggio. And I recommend playing the arpeggio out of the closed position, which means you'll play your first 3 notes, then shift into your 3-finger chop chord for those notes, and then go back down, little transition. Okay, so that's how you're going to do it in G sharp and A, if you're doing what I'm telling you to do, or recommending. Down and up the whole way. This is getting your motor running. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You can add your little finger extension if you want to. It's really good. Just general mechanics. Great for Monroe style. We'll get into that, a little bit later. Okay, so let's talk about patterns. All right, this is the one I call the skipper pattern. Some people also call it thirds because you're going up a third, 1, 2, 3, and then up another third. I just call it the skipper pattern because you're skipping a note. Let's go do that in G sharp, and in A. And then tag it with an arpeggio. Great practice. Okay, let's talk about the folded scale. This is one I learned from Chris Thiele, and we've all got a lot to learn from Chris Thiele. Obviously, his technique is impeccable. So it's the one that goes like this. So on and so forth. It's best if you can just hear that. But to break it down, what you're doing is you're going up 3 notes, back to your first note, and then you start on your second note and do that again. 1, 2, 3, and back to your second note. Start on your third note, back to your third note. Start on your fourth note. Start on your fifth note, and just like that, all the way up. And what this is doing is it's helping you practice crossing strings on an upstroke, which is the hardest thing to do on the mandolin. Down, up, 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 down. So the string switches are where a lot of people find problems technically. Okay, so you can do that in G sharp. It's really hard in G sharp. And then in A. A little easier in A. Then you can do your iterations. You can play 2 notes, and you can do this with the skipper pattern too. 2 notes, triplets, and then 16th notes. So on and so forth like that. And that's really good for practicing your mechanical tremolo. When you get into like that real mechanical, that's a 32nd note tremolo. And so if you're practicing that with your scales, and so right there, you're doing 8. You can kind of feel into your downstrokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Or you can do, just 4 strokes per note. Okay, so you can do that with your, you can do these iterations with your folded scale. Oops, that was a skipper. The triplets. Oops. Hard to keep them all straight. And then your 16th notes. This is what I call the grunt work, doing this in G sharp. But it's really good getting your motor running. So on and so forth. Okay, so let's talk about our selection for this lesson, which is going to be the Blueridge Cabin Home. If you don't know the Blueridge Cabin Home, it's good to just listen to the original recording of it. Lester and Earl and the Foggy Mountain Boys back in the 50s. It's great, it's classic, it's quintessential. It's a great study on all the different instruments and singing, harmony, everything. As I recall, there's not really much mandolin to it because, they were kind of minimizing the role of the mandolin to make their sound a bit different from Bill Monroe. Okay, But the most important thing is to get the vocal melody in your mind, all right? And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning this in the key of A, okay? So keep in mind that this song will get played a lot of different places, maybe G, A, B flat. I think that's where they cut it. And then in B, Bluegrass Album Band did it there, so a lot of people do it in B, natural. But we're going to look at it in A because it's kind of easy. It's got lots of open strings, and the scale is nice and easy in A. Okay, so Blueridge Cabin Home. There's a well-beaten path down this old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. There I wandered alone to the place I call home in the Blueridge hills far away. That's the verse. Here's the chorus. Oh, I love those hills of old Virginia. From those Blue Ridge hills I did roam. When I die, won't you bear me on the mountain far away near my Blue Ridge mountain home? So that's the melody. You got to get that in your head. The verse is slightly different than the chorus, but it's the same chord structure. It goes A, 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 D, 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 E, 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 back to A, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, back to A, 2, 3, and the chorus is the same thing. Da-da-da. Okay, so it's really important. The most important thing about music, I believe, is to learn it by ear. This is the traditional way, and ultimately, you don't want to be using any pieces of paper that you're going to have to get off of and discard that you can't hear a sound off of. So it's best, it can be a little challenging at first to develop your ear, but that's part of your whole chakra system up here, the Vyasudra, the throat chakra, that is going to be healing with your ears and your throat and all that kind of stuff. So when you can hear the melody and be able to play it, that's what you want, okay? So, and it's all about the deeter-daughters. Bluegrass can kind of get caricatured, that way. But that's kind of what's happening. So you might be able to surprise yourself, for the folks that are just starting, how much music you can pick out. And I recommend picking out everything you can think of, just making yourself a list of all the different songs that you might know from your childhood. Lulu, skip tamaloo, Lulu, skip tamaloo, or oh, I went down south for to see my south singing Polly Wolly Doodle all day. Happy Birthday, Amazing Grace. Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Anything that you can think of. What's You Are My Sunshine. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You can take that and make it into a great picking tune. So anything you can think of, you can start with just picking it out. Okay, so what's going on there? It's a little shuffle rhythm, and so you can practice a shuffle rhythm. Down, down, up, 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 down, down, up. That's a shuffle rhythm. It's imitating the fiddle bow, right? You can play so many little simple melodies like that, Okay, so back to what song we're actually studying, which is Blueridge Cabin Home. Okay, so usually the verse is played over the instrumental part, which goes like this. There's a well-beaten path down this old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. There I wandered alone to the place I call home in those Blue Ridge hills far away. So that's a very elementary way of doing it, but you can, get going on that. And then gradually work it into. Okay, so it's straight melody except for a little dibble dabble at the end. Something like that. You can take it how what's comfortable. But a lot of times when you just get a little sliding, one little double stop in there, then all of a sudden it started to sound like bluegrass. Okay, so from here, we're going to kind of graduate to the intermediate section, which is double stops. Okay, so let's talk about what double stops are. Why is it a double stop? It's because you're stopping two strings, at the same time. Okay, so here's your chop chord right here. And in a lot of my teaching, I talk about the infinity shape, which is this. So that's your arpeggio starting on the major third. 1, 2, 3 from here. Okay, so let's break that down real quick. 6th fret of the G. All right, 9th fret of the G. 7th fret of the D. 11th fret of the D. First finger on the 7th fret of the A, little finger on the 12th fret, the double dot of the A, and middle finger on the 9th fret of the E, and then finishing with your little finger on the 12th fret of the E. Okay, so that's your infinity shape. Why is it infinity shape? Because it's infinitely creatively potent. And you'll also find your double stops are built out of this shape. So you got your... Those are your meat and potatoes double stops. I often call this one 35. Why 35? Because that's the one right here. 1, skip your 2, there's your 3. That's your 3 right there, your third interval. That's the major third. And then your first finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the A, and that is your 5th interval. Okay, so this is your meat and potatoes. I used to call this second position, sometimes still do, now I call it 35, because it gives you some harmonic relevance to where you are within the scale. Okay, so that's the third note in the scale, and this is the 5th note in the scale. And you can see that this double stop right here, this 35 is the same as this 35 here, just switching keys. Why is it 35 in D? There's your D note right there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you get your 3 and your 5 there. Okay, a lot of y'all might know this, but for folks that are just learning, here it is, 35. And okay, so you can get all that right out of that same kind of playground. And then you can switch down to this 35. Why is that 35? Because now you're in E. There's your E note. 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay, so here's what's going on. This is why the mandolin is so much fun to play. It's because it's very efficient. You get so much music right here. And then you can make one little transition down here, maybe just sliding into it. You can get more melody that way. Okay, so what's this one? This is a 51. Why is it 51? You're in the key of D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's your 5th note. 5, 6, 7, 8 is the 1. So that's the 5 and the 1. It's built out of your chordal arpeggio. That's how you find it. You're just your good old chop for D. Just moving your ring finger over to the 7th fret of the D, and you get your 5th fret of the A there. It's good to be able to get your little finger out here for this other melody note, which is the 6th interval if you're in D. Okay, so just another look at that. You can slide up into E to the 51 double stop there, and down here to 35. Okay, so right there, you have the basis for a couple different great timbral, textural locations for finding this nice melody. That's downstairs. That's just, out of your open low position, and you got up here, up the neck. And you can also switch and swap. So you make a transition from this 35, meat and potatoesville down here, down to your easier, subjectively. And these are your jump offs right here. Okay, so let's talk about pickup notes real quick. It's our good friend anaphorand. and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and 1 and a 2 and so that's how you can count into your rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and 1 and a 2. And the 1 being the downbeat. So you're in the Blueridge Hills far away. And a 4 and 1. Okay, so that's a real good general way to think about kickoffs. You know, when you're thinking about Jeepers, you know, anything from I Saw the Light. Praise the Lord, I saw the light, 2, 3, and a 4 and you know, so that actually be like I saw the light, 2, 3, and a 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3. Okay, so the gospel set. So right there, you got the same rhythmic pickup. I know we're taking a little detour. I'm just talking about kickoffs here for a second, but the gospel set. I saw the light, I'll fly away, and Will the Circle Be Unbroken are 3 great teacher tunes for many reasons. For training the ear, but also understanding intervals a little bit. So if your first note of the melody, I saw the light, I wondered so aimless, so you're in the key of A. Your first note is the second fret of the D. That's the 5th interval, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so you can ascend with your and a 4 and 1 kickoff. 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and 1. So you're going from the arpeggio note under your lead note that you're aiming for. And you're just walking up the scale. Let's think about Will the Circle Be Unbroken for a second. Better home away in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Will the circle. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and 1. Okay, so you're using that same rhythmic principle. 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and 1. And you're just, you know, launching up into your main lead note for your downbeat. In this case, it's going to be like this. Will the circle. So the lead note for Will the Circle Be Unbroken is the 1. The 1 is you know, you're in the key of A. 1, 2, 3. It's the A note. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and da 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 da. So that's the difference between I Saw the Light and Will the Circle Be Unbroken. For this part, you know, with the intro, the pickup notes, what note it starts on. A lot of y'all might be able to just hear that. That's wonderful. But for those that are, you know, struggling, trying to figure this stuff out, hopefully this will be helpful. Let's think about I'll Fly Away. Okay, some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away. Okay, so what that note is, da, 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 is the major third. 1, 2, 3. It's the 3rd note in the scale. Okay, so I Saw the Light kicked off to the 5. Will the Circle Be Unbroken kicks off to the 1. And I'll Fly Away kicks off on the major 3rd. Okay, so if you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and a 4 and 1. It's the same rhythmic principle, but 3 different main notes for the downbeat for the very first start of the melody. And you can find all of those notes in your arpeggio. Okay, and those just happen to be the first 3 notes of Blueridge Cabin Home. There's a well-beaten path now. So how do you kick that off? 1, 2, 3. You know, just a little ramp up there. You could do it from the open A. Okay, it's all good. All right, now let's talk about just the difference between how you can play the verse and the chorus of Blueridge Cabin Home. You can play the verse. Well-beaten path down this old mountainside where I want. Or you can play the chorus. Oh, I love those hills of old Virginia, from those Blueridge hills far away. Or whatever, how the lyrics go. So just want to make you aware of that. You can think about playing the verse or think about playing the chorus. It's all good because it's over the same chords. All right. So that's a little intro for intermediate. Now we're going to get into the advanced stuff. We're going to talk about some Monroe style modular devices that you can add to your melody or you can play on their own. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3. All right, the first one is going to be called staggered 16th notes, and it sounds like this. Okay, so it's built out of our arpeggio, and it might sound complicated, but I'm going to break it down, and it could be a lifelong friend. Okay, so it's built out of the arpeggio. And how the staggered 16th notes work is like this. Okay, so you can play down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Doing that, it's 2 notes per fret. All right, you're starting on a down, and that's up. You move on a down and up. That's not how staggereds work. Staggered works like this. You start on a downstroke, then you move on an upstroke. So each new note is an upstroke. Down, up, 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 down. So you might just want to practice that right there. 1, 2, ready, go. Down, up, 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 down. Just that much. This is 1 bar of staggered 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a lot of times I'll use that last stroke as an 8th note. So you won't have the final 16th note as an upstroke. You can just go to your next chord that way. Okay, you can also do it down. Okay, so if you can route that through all of your chords. Oops. Okay, so you're just doing your staggered 16th notes up the arpeggio and down one interval at the end. You can also go up. It's just not quite as handy that way, but you can do it. Okay, so that's staggered 16th notes. You can do them out of the infinity. You know, it's more advanced stuff. So let's talk about the next modular device that we're going to use, but let's just back that up a little bit. Let's see how we can use this tastefully. Okay, so there's 2 different ways that you know I recommend feeling into being able to do. Once you learn the melody, I'm going to give you the fox sound analogy. This is the way that Bill Monroe talked about improvising. He was a country guy, so it's a country analogy. All right, so he's talking about if you are the foxhound and you're watching the fox run in a circle, the fox running his circle, that's the melody. Okay, so this is what he talked about improvising. This is how he talked about improvising. Now, once the foxhound watches the fox run the circle, which is the melody, and he learns the circle, he learns the melody, you're the foxhound, then at that point, you can cross over the middle of the circle to get to the fox, and that is his way of describing how to improvise. But you have to know the pattern, you have to know the circle, you have to know the melody. Okay, then you know what to do besides play the melody. Monroe would take abstractions away from the melody. He was a big melody player, played melody most of the time, but occasionally he would go way outside and do something abstract, but that's because he knew something was going to be potentially better than just playing the simple melody. But you have to know the melody first. You have to be able to hum it, have it in your heart. You have to have that real solid in your heart, in your mind, learning by ear. It's the best. Okay, so the first jump off is playing the straight melody and then going into the staggered 16th notes and then going back into the melody. So for the melody, we're going to play the A part. We're going to do our modular device, the staggered 16th notes over the D chord, the 4 chord. Then we're going to go back into melody for the 5 chord, the E chord. All right, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what was happening there? Just playing the melody and going into your staggered 16th notes in D. And many different ways you can do it. You can do it like that with your little finger. You can do it this way with your middle finger there. And you can get the top note for the D octave there. All right. You can also do it down here. Okay, so it's real good to get comfortable with your staggered 16th notes. You can do it out of the infinity. Okay, so Let's do it backwards. Let's start with the staggered 16th notes in A, and then play melody in D. It's going to sound like, and then go to staggered 16th notes in E, and back to melody in A. All right, so we're starting with staggered 16th notes. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the flow of it, the concept. Little this, back to the melody. You could do staggered 16 notes through the whole thing. 1, 2, 3. There's a well-beat path down this old mountainside that I wandered when I was a lad. There I wandered along to the place I call home from the Blueridge hills far away. What's that one? That's the infinity shape. Remember we talked about it up here? If you take this whole thing down, now you're in E. I have lots of videos on all this kind of stuff. I have a whole series called Monroe Style Improvising. It's 36 weeks long. You can get it week by week, and you can go 12 at a time. And all this is broken down in meticulous detail at noyamountainmusic.com. You can check that out. And I'd be happy to work with any of you on private lessons and all that. I offer half off a first private lesson back into what we're doing. Okay. All right. So noyamountainmusic.com. You can also email me, Christopher at noyamountainmusic.com, Noya mountainmusic.com. Okay. So let's talk about another modular device, and this is going to be the slidey lick. Okay. This is classic Monroe verbiage here. You also hear it in all the great Monroe stylists. This is the slidey lick. Okay, so that's starting on the downbeat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Okay, so starting with your ring finger on the 7th fret of the A. Down, up, down, pulling down to the 5th fret of the A. 7, 6, 5. You come up on an upstroke, then a downstroke. 3, 4. Okay, so that's the first little part. Da, 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 da. Down, up, down, up, down. From there, you're going to cross over on an upstroke to your 7th fret of the D with your ring finger. You're playing up then a down. Okay, putting that together sounds like this. So you might just want to loop that. The back half of this lick sounds like this. Okay, so we ended on a downstroke with our ring finger on the 7th fret of the D. Downstroke. Okay, so the next part sounds like this. Since we ended on a downstroke, we're going to start on an upstroke. 3, 4, 7, 5, 3, 4, and then an upstroke and a downstroke on the 7th fret of the D. Da da ba da ba da bum bum. It's really good if you can get this in your ear. Ha da da dee 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 doo doo. La da da dee 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 doo boo doo boo doo boo doo 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 boo doo 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 boo doo boo doo boo doo. Okay. So the cool thing about this lick is it's easily modulated to another key. So for instance, if you play that in A, and this is right out of your chop chord, right? You just take it down one set of strings and you're in D. All right, you take it up one set of strings or down, just depending on how you're looking at it, to the 7th fret of the E. Now you're in E. Back to A. Okay, so we're going to do A, D, and E. Sounds like this. 1, 2, ready, go. And you're halfway through. You can play it for the rest of the break if you want to. Play it for the rest of your life. A little bit more modular texture to fill out the rest of that bar once you get back to A. Okay, so now let's talk about how we can switch and swap with this and the melody. Okay, so let's start off with the melody and then go into the slidey lick for your D chord. 1, 2, 3. Great. Okay. So let's do the opposite of that. Let's invert that concept. Let's start with the slidey lick and go into the melody for the D chord. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, you can see how much fun and how easy this can be. All right, so let's do melody, then let's do slidey lick in D, then slidey lick in E. Okay, so melody, then slidey lick in D, slidey lick in E. All right, here we go. 1, 2, melody, go. Okay, so you can see how easy and powerful this system is, and why Bill Monroe loved it so much, and why Monroe mandolin stylists love it so much too. Okay, so now if you can combine the first two devices, staggered 16th notes and the slidey licks, then you're going to be really off to the races. So here's how that works. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a new modular lick right there. It's called the bouncy lick. And right there, very similar to, it's just it's a modulation of that slide concept. If you did that, if you're pulling down with your little finger from the 9th fret down, up, down, and then an upstroke, and on the 5th fret slide into the 6th fret, and an up and a down on the 7th fret of the D. You can modulate the slidey lick that way. Very cool. Let's talk about the bouncy lick. Okay, so this is a super crafty way to play the mandolin kind of fast, but just getting the most for your money. It's very efficient, kind of speed optimized. So the scale, from the 5th interval, 7th fret of the A, if you just bounce off the open A each time, then you'll have a cool lick. You take that to D, take it to E. Okay, this is a great ending lick, so check this out. Okay, so we walked up to that. M, 4E, and a 1E, and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4E, and a 1. Okay, so you can do a whole break with just bouncies. Okay, so with these 3 modular devices, staggered 16th notes, slideys, and bouncies, you're off to the races. And you can apply this to all of your favorite tunes. Just a quick little example. Let's take, I Saw the Light. Okay. So, praise the Lord, I saw the light. I wander so aimless, life filled with sin. I wouldn't let my dear Savior in. And Jesus came like a stranger in the night. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. You can kind of get the picture. So you can use it to kind of fake your way through stuff, or you can use it modularly with this little section, this chord, and then go into your melody, this section for the devices, this section for the melody, switch and swap, and flavor to taste. Okay, so that might be enough, but let's just throw something real advanced out here. This is called the slidey bounce. No, this is called, what is this called? This is called the infinity bounce. Okay, so once you get your mind around the infinity shape. Okay, this is the folded bounce right here. Okay, why is it called the folded pattern? Because it's kind of like this, except you're doing it with the arpeggio and the open string, so it's a folded infinity bounce. And you can do that in your next key. This is a technique that I believe Ronnie McCurry learned from David Grisman, and I learned it from Ronnie. He does it on the great Quicksburg Rendezvous. Okay, so that was in like, B flat. So we just take that back one fret. It's a really fun texture. And then you can kind of hammer on if you want to. This is really advanced. Okay, and we haven't even gotten to slidey arpeggios. Might have to save that to the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this video, a little intro to mandolin engine running, scales and patterns, beginner, intermediate, and some advanced stuff and some really advanced stuff. Be happy to help anybody I can with your music. Please check out noyamountainmusic.com. My email address is christopher@noyamountainmusic.com. And thanks for supporting Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. Dan Miller is doing a great job with the magazine, and appreciate him for inviting me to do this lesson with y'all. And enjoy learning, and I really recommend, feeling into as much as you can, learning by ear all the way, picking it out. There are so many tunes that we know that we can just pick out, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun is to ride on horse open sleigh. Hey, Monroe style. We've got tons of tunes that are kind of built into our culture, so I recommend picking all of them out that you can. Amazing Grace. If you're practicing this, that's going to be the intro to your tremolo. Right. So I hope the sun is shining on you and in your heart as much as you can stand, and lots of love to everybody, and we'll see you on down the road. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing, which is talking about the Monroe Lineage Workshop through Zoom that I teach with David McLaughlin and Mike Compton every other Thursday. It's a fantastic opportunity to connect with the real essence of Monroe style with a couple of the truest masters you could find on planet Earth at any time. David with the Johnson Mountain Boys and Mike Compton with the Nashville Bluegrass Band. They're pretty much legends. They are, legends of bluegrass mandolin. And how it works is this. We pick a song and a tune of Bill Monroe, and we study the original recordings in nuclear detail. I put out note-for-note explanations, a hack and teaching video to teach you how to learn the stuff by ear. Send out lots of videos. David McLaughlin does demonstrations. Mike Compton does demonstrations. I also include a free half-hour lesson, private lesson with me through Zoom. And so it's $75. You can find out more information at NoyaMountainMusic.com. The actual workshop itself is 2 hours long. We've got a great crew of regular folks in there. We're all learning from each other. It's very upbeat and uplifting, lots of humor, and we're all learning from each other. So we would love it if you would join us.